All right, I think we'll call the meeting to order. If, Metro, you guys ready to roll?
I believe we are.
All right. All right, well, welcome to our Metro Management Council meeting, our August 18 meeting. Thanks for joining us. We do have a quorum present. We have one member missing, Councilor Erickson. She texted me she's running a bit behind, but we'll be here shortly. So we'll have all five here. We just need to approve our agenda, so just need a motion and a second to approve our agenda here.
So move.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Benninga, second by Karski to approve our agenda. All those in favor, do you guys do ayes or yeses on commission?
Aye.
Okay, we'll do ayes here. All those in favor say aye.
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 Yes.
Say yes.
When did you change to yes?
Yeah, we say yes on the city council, so. All opposed? All right. You can tell, Scott, we're in a lively mood today, so.
That'll work.
Agenda's approved. Will anybody here to give public input today to Metro Council? I don't see any. So we'll move on to our minutes. They're dated April 28, which was our last meeting. Those were provided to you. Just would ask for a motion to approve those.
So move. Second.
All right, motion by Benninga, seconded by Karski on that. We'll take a vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, those are approved, and we'll move to item 4, our director's report from Scott. Scott, good afternoon, sir.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Scott McMahon, Director of Metro Communications. We have a relatively light update for you today, about 9 different items I'll speak to. The first 3 items that I'm speaking to are staff related, and the first thing that I'd like to mention is that we have given 4 conditional offers to prospective applicants just this month, and we anticipating starting those in our next recruit class, which is September 7th. This will bring us back to full staff, and we're excited to be at full staff again.
That's great.
Now, considering though, even though we'll be at full staff in numbers, it still takes 26 weeks to train our new people in, so technically we're still down 5 people at this point. But being full staff is good news for the agency. The leadership team, we continue to be very vigilant in retaining the staff that we have. We have staff that are exceptionally qualified, and they're very important to our operations, and we want to do everything we can to keep those people on board with Metro Communications. So far this year, we've had just 2 resignations of full-time employees. We have had some other that were in a probationary status that resigned during the training phase. That has happened where there has been more than 2, but we've only had 2 full-time non-probationary resignations this year. And that tells us that we're doing some things that staff recognize as important to them. And we've developed a retention committee to try and focus on what staff are telling us as far as their life-work balance. And currently, or recently I should say, there's been an emphasis on schedules, whether that's 8-hour schedule or 12 or some different combination. We're working through that process with our recruitment or with our retention committee, and we'll bring back further details later on. We're just trying to appreciate what it is that is important to our staff, and really just try and do everything we can to make the work environment fit the home life environment. So. Metro, we do have currently 5 temporary staff members who were past communication operators, and they wanted to come back into the organization. And they've been with us for quite some time, actually prior to my arrival. These operators were all previous operators, as I said. In 2021, these 5 operators have worked 1,134 hours to help support our mission. It's extremely valuable to our organization to have the temporary operators. They do not receive benefits. They do receive the standard pay that we have for them. But, to help cover vacations, to help cover sick leave, to help cover trainings, they're just invaluable to our organization. Then we also have 4 temporary staff that have worked another 721 hours, and this is to support our recruitment process, which is an ongoing process now. We changed that just in this past year, where we have continuous application period. Well, with that, our application process has many steps to it, so we need somebody to manage each one of those steps, the phone interviews, the keyboarding test, the written listening exam that we have. So having these staff help support us through that process is very important. Background investigations, we also have a temporary staff person that helps us with that, compiling audio recordings, and really just a host of other administrative duties to support our agency. So I just can't say enough about how important our temp staff are to us, so.
Just out of curiosity, Scott, are those like retirees mostly, or are they people who left for another career opportunity and just do some part-time work, or what's the make?
For the most part, I believe they're all folks that have accepted different employment, but they still had it in their heart to be a part of Metro, so they wanted to come back and serve the community in that capacity. So, you know, they recognize that they have skills and abilities that, you know, that take a long time to train, and their experience in the organization, they just wanted to come back and give back to the community in this way. So,
It's good.
good question. Moving past staff, on July 16th of 2020, the FCC adopted rules to establish a 988 number. And this 988 number is connected to the 10-digit American hotline, if you will. Suicide prevention and mental health counselors respond to folks that are in need of that type of assistance, currently through a 10-digit number. But they want to change that to something that's simpler for folks to have access to, so they're changing it to 988 starting in 2022. But ahead of that, there's preparation taking place in every state as far as how do you implement going from the 10-digit number to the 988 number. How does that impact law enforcement, social services, 911 centers, everybody that's in that mix of public safety and public assistance. So currently, Deputy Director Chase is serving on this implementation committee in South Dakota. There are about 35 people that are a part of that committee to establish really what the ground rules will be and what the appearance of 988 will look like in South Dakota in 2022. The next item on the list, we continue to be vigilant about cybersecurity. We did send our technology coordinator through some advanced training in that area, and we've also worked with Minnehaha County Information Technology to perform an assessment on our networks and our systems, and we're also working with the 911 Coordination Board on that same analysis of our systems. So just want to try and stay ahead of any type of threat to our systems and our network. On March 22nd.
I want to say
I'm sorry.
one thing on that.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt you there. The city also has been really ramping up our training of our employees with some real sophisticated, phishing, expeditions, if you will, and so forth. And we have a really good program that's been put in place that has really helped raise the awareness level amongst our employee base of what to do and what not to do in terms of recognizing and reporting cybersecurity attacks. So I throw that out there just to say, I realize you're working with Monty and others, and if the city can provide any resources as well on that topic, because that's one topic that always keeps me up at night a little bit, in this day and age. So I know that's a very, very important one.
I agree with you, Mayor. It's extremely important to keep our systems up and running, and it also keeps me up as well because attack of a cybersecurity type attack can take place from anywhere in the world, and we've seen plenty of evidence in other PSAPs as far as what has happened when they haven't taken steps to improve their security. So we'll certainly take you up on that offer to have the city also take a look with the county and help us out. So appreciate that. On March 22nd, the state 911 coordinator announced that text and 911 was available to all people in the state of South Dakota. Councilor Erickson had asked for an update on that, and the update is that since March 22nd through the end of July, we've received 221 sessions. That's where somebody has sent us a text and said, I'm in need of assistance. As a result of those 221 sessions, there was 2,106 messages exchanged during that process. So it's been a fair amount of activity with text messaging. I suspect that we'll continue to see that amount of activity or maybe even more. But it's, it's something that we want to remind the public that it's an additional tool, but we always encourage people to use a landline device, a cellular device if possible. And then, of course, remember, don't text and drive. So. Metro also continues to be engaged in the planning process for the new Public Safety Training Center. That's coming along really well. We've reviewed the 100% documents, and we don't have any additional recommendations. We feel that everything that has gone into that new facility as far as planning and planning for the financial piece and operational piece, that we feel that we're in a very good position with that project. So we're just looking forward for it to continue forward and very appreciative of the fact that this board has helped us move in the direction of a new facility. Our call volume is continuing to increase. In 2021, we are trending towards a 6% increase, which is above our typical annual increase of about 2.7%. In the first 6 months of 2021, we have exceeded our 12-month rolling call for service by 8,000 calls. So normally on an annual basis, we're at about 258,349 calls. Already in the first 6 months, we're at the 266. So it's representing a 3% growth already in just the first 6 months of this year. So it's very possible we could work towards that 6% increase. And just an example of how busy it can be, on July 4th, between 2 p.m. in the afternoon and 2 a.m. on July 5th, Metro answered a total of 491 911 calls and another 641 incoming business line calls for a total of 1,132 calls in a 12-hour period. It's an especially busy night for us. It's not unusual to have a lot of call activity on the 4th of July, but we do bring on additional staff and try and plan ahead for that as much as possible. But I just wanted to point out just how busy it can become on that evening. So,
Were those calls complaining about fireworks out in the county?
well, there was
Out in the county.
there's a number of fireworks complaints and grass fires, those types of things. So, yeah,
In the county.
Yeah,
a little of everywhere.
Mostly southeast Sioux Falls.
yeah, just outside.
There you go.
Class A.
With that, that's the director's report, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
You have, like that time, you have anticipated surge times of the year, like that's going to be a surge night, and you
Yep.
guys plan for that, staff for that, and,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
July 4th is one. You get around that New Year's Eve time, that's another event, so.
Random. Do you see any influx on Friday the 13th? Is that just kind of a hoax?
I think that's a hoax at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not a full moon kind of
Full
night
moon.
and.
All right, any questions for Scott? Other questions, I should say, on the report here? All right, thank you, Scott. We'll move on to item 5, adoption and ratification of maintenance agreement for the NICE recorder.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a request to ratify a 4-year maintenance agreement that was entered into with Voice Products Services in June of this year for continuation of maintenance following the expiration of warranty on audio recording equipment that's located on premise at Metro Communications. This 4-year agreement with the June time constraint allowed the agency to lock into a 4-year maintenance agreement, saving us some dollars in maintenance cost. This recording equipment and maintenance is crucial to our agency. It records all telephone and radio-related traffic. And of course, we need the maintenance to keep that system operational. So in 2020, last year, we did purchase this new equipment, and it had a 1-year warranty that came with it. And with the extension of the 4-year maintenance agreement, it puts it at a 5-year warranty period. So, but what we're asking for today is the additional 4 years at the same cost that was provided for the first year. Where had we not agreed to a 4-year maintenance agreement, every year the cost would increase by 3 to 5%.
Got it. And that's something, I mean, how often do you tap into that maintenance agreement? Is that like a regular, something you have to use regularly? Is it like an insurance policy, like a car warranty, or is it something that you guys weekly are utilizing them for?
It varies. Recently, there's been a number of contacts made to the company, not necessarily from Metro, but of all the users around the state that are, this also connects into the state master site for the radio system. So if we're experiencing problems here at Metro, oftentimes Pennington County is experiencing the same problem. Then it's just a matter of who calls the company first to let them know that we need their assistance. But in-house, generally, these types of systems are pretty maintenance-free, but it's an insurance policy absolutely to, protect that equipment.
Got it. And what was the cost annually? That was in here somewhere?
Do you have that? $20,427.
Annually?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, anybody on the council have any questions on item 5 here?
Scott, with that agreement, do they come in periodically to check the equipment, even if they're not called?
Not very often on site. It's generally all done remotely.
Sure.
Yeah, but when they installed the system last year, they came on site, installed the system, made the upgrades that they needed to make. But beyond that, generally, it has to be pretty catastrophic for them to need to come on scene. Most things can be repaired remotely.
All right, would take a motion to approve the maintenance agreement for Nice Recorder.
Move to approve.
Second?
All right, motion by Kylie and seconded by Benninga to approve this. Any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one passes. We'll move on to item 6, approval of engagement for financial audit services for fiscal years ending December 31, 2021, 22, and 23.
Metro's most recent agreement for audit services, also with Eide Bailey, ended on December 31st of 2020. Because Metro is a component unit of the city for audit purposes, we do follow the city's lead with selection of our audit firm, and the city has entered into an agreement for the same period with Eide Bailey. We're asking for Metro Management Council to approve this 3-year agreement to have Eide Bailey complete our annual audit for calendar years 2021, 22, and 23. Once approved by Metro Management Council and signed by the mayor, this agreement is required to be presented to the South Dakota Department of Legislative Audit for their review and to gain approval for the audit services for the year ending December 31st, 2021. We present this to Metro Management Council approval in August to ensure that we can confirm approvals to begin the audit in a timely manner. Audit work begins in December of the current calendar year.
All right, thank you, sir. Got any questions for Scott on engaging Eide Bailey here?
Move to approve.
Second, Kylie?
All right, motion by Erickson and second by Kylie to approve this one. Any discussion on the council here? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that engagement is approved. We'll move on to item 7, presentation of our financials as of July 31 of this year.
Okay, I'm going to ask Business Manager Anna Raker to come up and present those financials.
Your financials are not in your packet, so I'll hand them out to you.
Thanks.
So first of all, I want to be just very transparent. These financials are through the month of June. We have no concerns about the month of July. I just didn't have them at a state that I felt comfortable presenting them to you today. So I'm still working on those, but everything is accurate through, or is presented here through the month of June. And I'll go over the financials, and then I'll just simply ask that you in your motion to approve that you just state that it's for financials for the month of June. And we did confer with legal, and there's no need to amend the agenda.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
So we'll start with the balance sheet. We're sitting in a really good place right now financially. As you can see, our cash is up just a little bit from last year. It's really just, a lot of that is timing of expenses. Accounts receivable is fairly low right now. Again, that's just timing of billing and people paying. The due from state and due from county, just a refresher on that, that is just a reconciliation of how we estimate surcharges at the end of the year. Remember, surcharges are a couple months behind for financials. And so on December 31st, as part of audit, I do a calculation to estimate what's going to come in for November and December that flow through to us in January and February. And what this means is, I was within $38 with the due from state, which are the surcharges that are traditional that flow through the county. But we did end up with a little more from due from, the due from state is the incentive funds. The due from county is the traditional surcharges. So I underestimated that a little. So we've exceeded what I estimated. So that's a good thing. As far as the rest of the balance sheet, you can see our payables are very similar to last year, including payroll deductions and just traditional accounts payables. Sales tax is a little more, and that's just reflective of the activity that we've been experienced with. We've been doing a lot more audios this year. That's really what it comes down to. Many of the items on the balance sheet aren't adjusted each month, like deferred inflows, different things like that that are adjusted just at the end of the year as part of audit. Any questions about the balance sheet? Okay. Going to the next page, that is a comparison of current to prior year in a summary format. And you'll see that surcharges are just a tidge less than surcharges were last year. And that just shows that they're kind of fairly flat right now. We continue to review those and pay attention to them. We look at both the line counts and the dollars. And as in past years, the state lines tend to be fairly flat, but Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls is growing, and I think there was recently an article about that that I read, and so I think that's pretty standard. What that means is our traditional surcharges increase, but our share of the incentive funds decreases a little because even though our share remains constant, that pool of money has kind of shrunk a little bit. As far as services, the increase from last year to this year is simply timing of some of the billings for various services. And then also an increase in audios that we've seen this year. And then we're also seeing a bit of an increase in EMS transfers. I don't know if you remember, but a year ago, we saw quite a dip in EMS transfer billings. And it seemed to be in those first months of COVID. And I don't know if we could ever really explain it, but we noticed it in the activity. So, as far as personnel, you can see there's a slight increase from last year. Dropping down to operating, the biggest things I'll point out is we have several of our grant purchased expenses this year. And Scott has talked to you in great depth about that. And we had over $28,000 in expenses that we actually purchased items, and we have received that reimbursement now. And so in here, you'll see expenses for 911 radios, the simulator, and then some cybersecurity enhancements that Scott rolled out. And so that totals the $28,000, or it's a little over $28,000. So that's all good there. So you have the expenses now. You won't see the grant funds until a later month. Any questions about the summary? Okay. Looking at budget to actual, here you see a little bit different view of the surcharges. And of course, we estimated a slightly larger increase in surcharges than what we're experiencing year to date. And you see that difference. It's about 13,000 less year-to-date through June than we anticipated. Now, remember, that's 4 months, not 6. And so what you're looking at there is approximately 4 months of 911 surcharge revenue. You can see that audio recordings have increased. There's a good comparison. The EMS transfer fees is timing of billing for those from last year to this year. When you look down at recoveries, a good chunk of those are PD saturations, and that's simply timing of when they schedule those saturations. Dropping down to personnel, you can see our salaries are less as our overtime and our related taxes than budgeted. And you can also see that our group health insurance is less than budgeted. So we do have some vacancies, and that's reflected here, but this is also a reflection of management of overtime. So the fact that our overtime hasn't increased, even though our salaries are down, means we're doing a great job managing those vacancies, and that's a credit to your operations team. Just to point out with health insurance, we fared very, very well on our health insurance increase last year. It was around 4%. And so that's reflected in this. I mean, there's no way we could have known that we would have come in that low. We tried to budget conservatively, but, you know, to be realistic and reasonable. But it actually came in really well for us. So I think you're going to see us save some dollars there throughout the year. Dropping down to operating, like recruitment and some of these types of professional services, these are just the timing of when we're hiring people and when we do some of those professional services. Again, you're going to see the grant purchased dollars in the small equipment purchases, the computer hardware, and then in the capital outlay. And so that's where you see that extra 28,000. And then in addition, under small equipment purchases, that's timing of when we purchase our budgeted small equipment. And Scott authorized the purchase of some radios, portable radios, and so that was another 10,000 or 9,000 there. That flows through June. The increase in dispatch communications, I'll bring that up. If you recall, we budgeted less this year because we were losing the responsibility of a major amount of those trunk lines. But we also implemented SIP lines, and we underestimated a little bit where those SIP lines were going to come in. And so just full disclosure, we'll probably exceed that budget item a little bit. We just did our best to estimate what those lines would cost us per month, and they're a little more than what we anticipated. They're averaging around $1,400 a month for us. Questions?
Can I go back to the balance sheet just for a second?
Absolutely.
On the liabilities, we have deferred inflows of resources. That's about 2.5 times what it was last year at this time.
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner Benninga. All the deferred, that wherever you see that PEN, that's pension, those are reflective of our share and our staff's portion of the SDRS retirement plan. And so you'll see those fluctuate from year to year, and it's based on what we've invested as an agency and what the potential risk and exposure is for Metro. But it's all based on how SDRS manages those funds. And then basically we do a spreadsheet based on their calculations. But yeah, it's quite a change. You'll see it, if you go back a few years, you'll see it flip back and forth depending upon where things are at financially for the state.
So wouldn't that be based on payroll-related information?
Yes, but it's, in a way, it's based on our contributions, which are a reflection of payroll. And we are Class A employees, so we withhold and match 6%. And they look at what we've contributed over a period of years and what the potential exposure is for benefits that they're carrying on our behalf for this defined benefit plan. So in a way, yes, it is payroll, but they calculate it based on the,
One more question.
Yes.
So are they assuming that we're gonna have more exposure? Why that rate is so much higher?
maybe exposure wasn't the right word, but, every state manages their pool of funds and they determine what their COLAs are gonna be each year, and they determine if they're gonna make changes to vesting and how their programs work. And if you recall, in July of 2017, they kind of split the group, and everybody hired prior to then were foundational members, and everybody hired after July 1 of 17 were generational members. And so there's a different calculation in how their retirement is calculated. So I can't tell you knowledgeably if we're going to see after years that affects these numbers.
Do they give us a year-end report on what their
Yes, and in fact,
was?
yeah, and in fact, you can look at their reports online. They're very lengthy and entailed. You can see the entire state. You can see every organization that contributes to SDRS, and you can see what their formulas are and all kinds of information. And then basically, it's an audit report where you can read their financial notes, just like our audit or the county's or the city's audit.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Anna on the financials? All right, just need a motion to accept these then as presented here.
Move to accept the financial statements as of June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All right, motion by Kylie and seconded by Karski. Any other discussion here, council? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. I need a motion to move us into exec session.
So move.
Can I get a second?
Everybody else went to sleep.
All right, second by Erickson.
My
All
bad.
right, so a motion and a second to move us to exec session for purposes of and authorized by SDCL 1-25-2, 1, 3, and 4. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We'll step out into the side room for exec session and be back in a little bit.